Hello and welcome back to the channel. Uh, I wanted to give you a little sort of preview tour of what to expect from the new environment that we're going to build. Uh, and this is all going to be tore down and rebuilt through projects on the channel. But just to give you an idea of the direction things are going to go and some of the technologies that we're going to be working with. Uh, I figured I'd just kind of go through what we have in this in the existing environment. So I've got those two Dell Precision servers running this cluster, right? Total like 512 gigs of RAM and lots of CPU. The storage numbers are a little bit misleading because we're using the QNAP to as our physical storage, but then we have the ONTAP Select appliance representing that storage to VMware. So in reality, we're actually using less than half of the space that it's reporting for for our virtual machines. But that's just something to keep in mind. I'm not really using 3.5 terabytes worth of storage in this environment. It's only, I think in reality, I'm only using around 600 gigs worth of space for the actual like production footprint. There's snapshots and things that take up a little more, but overall, I think it's around 600 gig. Uh, okay, so let's take a look at these. So from top to bottom, uh, this is ActiveIQ Unified Manager. This is a NetApp tool for um, for reviewing the health of your systems and the trending data uh, that's associated with your storage consumption. Um, we can look at it. Just take a quick look at this tool, and you can see from the dashboards it's availability, capacity, performance, protection. It gives you a high level. Everything's good. Some things could be better, right? Some things have issues, um, like that. I've got a cluster with I got a physical cluster with a failed disk here, so it's reporting that. Uh, but uh, looking at this more for like trending purposes, this is the home data center right now. Everything is hosted on this one data store, other than my Exchange DAG ones. So, uh, looking at the data, it actually looks like I'm using less data over time, because uh, whatever virtual machines I started this with, some stuff got deleted. Like I was testing an IPM solution and it didn't pan out. I didn't like it, so I deleted that, and like just some other stuff and might have that's been deleted over time. So uh, even though I expect this to trend up on the whole. Right now it's trending down a little. It's a little odd looking there, right? But yeah, I mean, this is the kind of information you get out of Unified Manager, and it's good stuff. And this also gives you reporting features, so you can get alerts when you're exceeding capacity thresholds, and you can get alerts for errors and configuration errors and other stuff as well. So it's a nice tool to have in your enterprise environment when you have NetApp storage, right? Um, Moving along here, we're gonna skip some stuff. This is my ONTAP Select virtual appliance. Uh, this is our storage for this environment. So when you look at this, like the dashboard, you can see we're pretty low on efficiency, and I'm fairly certain that that's because I moved this environment uh, from another NetApp to this one via SnapMirror, and I think most of the efficiencies were captured on that side, and now on this side, either that or the select appliance is maybe not as accurate as a physical one, because normally I get somewhere around uh, 19 to like 23, 24 to 1 ratios off of my footprint. But if we look at it, like this is my data store for the home data center, and we can see I'm getting about 28% deduplication savings and 14% compression. Now this is on the disk this is running on is SSD, which is why I have dedupe and compression enabled. If it wasn't on SSD, you wouldn't want to use compression on your production systems, because it would suck the performance away from it. You'd get really poor throughput. I get off of this virtual appliance, I can get upwards of about 250 megabyte per second if I'm stressing it. So that's that. These are my domain controllers, right? 2019 server 2019, handling some DHCP, DNS, right? Enterprise auth. This is my certificate server. We're gonna have a whole video just based on certificate services, because this is, from my perspective, the videos that I've seen out there on this that try to help you configure it don't go far enough into detail as to what you need to do after you have it running. So we're going to do a little video on deploying certificate services and generating certificates for your different servers. Like I've got certificates generated for FTP and for my Exchange servers to so that I don't get those, the annoying certificate errors from self-signed certs. And that, like on this one too, I have the cert on that for the IAS stuff. So FTP, that's pretty basic. This server actually, I have an SCP server on there as well. So I use this, like, if I need to install firmware or software on like Cisco switches or NetApp storage, anything that in order to get the files onto it, you need to point it to a website or an FTP site or SCP. That's the server I use to do that stuff. It's not unless I'm sharing files with a friend or a colleague, it's not internet facing. Loadmaster. Loadmaster is a load balancing. It's a free load balancing appliance, and I guess it's pretty good. I'm not a guru on this stuff, so it's way too complicated for me. Like I don't even there's modules you can install to like pre-configured stuff to do things like SMTP for Exchange or whatever. I didn't like it. It's really confusing, and I'm trying to keep the home data center stuff intuitive, right? I mean, we don't want to go 20,000 feet deep on subjects like this, and this is one of those. It's messy. So I have a NetScaler 11.2, I think, and this is more as far as setup and basic configuration. This is really easy to use. And in my environment, I use this for Exchange. I use this for the web interfaces for Outlook that are internet facing, and I use them for the SMTP I use them for the SMTP features to balance between XCH1 and XCH2, the exchange DAG. So uh, otherwise, you end up in a situation where, like, say, XCH2 dies, right? Uh, and I was port forwarding to that for the traffic coming in from the internet. Um, I'd have to repoint my port forwards and everything to XCH1 or vice versa, right? Where the NetScaler, if you have one go down, it will automatically route all traffic that's destined to them to the surviving node. It's one less thing to deal with. It's a very resilient. It's a very resilient device. I've blown it up and restored it from snapshot with no issues. So it's pretty good all around, and as a Citrix product, I mean, you'd expect it to be pretty good. I don't use it for a lot of things, but I am going to, as we build the DR site for this home data center, we will be using GSLB to load balance applications between those sites. So there are some pretty cool features that we're going to touch on with it. NIXO1, this is another ONTAP Select appliance. We'll talk about that later. These are the deploy. ONTAP Select has a deployment tool, deployment appliance that you deploy these from. So that's what those are. This one was for Chris, and then this one for this one. So that's I'm pretty sure at this point, once they're deployed, you could actually just kind of blow those away. But they do have some tools to talk to the storage appliance. But my experience with it so far has been that I can do everything just right from the appliance itself and not deal with the deployment appliance. Seat is, I play a game, EVE Online, and Seat is just a corporation player management asset tracking tool. So I keep that around because it's handy. It's got good features for that game, so that sits in the environment because it's handy, unrelated to anything infrastructure. SMTP out, all of my alerting, reporting, messaging stuff, everything goes to this server, and then this server will route the communications through the Exchange DAG via NetScaler, right? The outputs go here, and then NetScaler will decide where to send it, and then it'll go, to me or outside, whoever. SnapCenter and SnapCenter Data Broker. So SnapCenter is the backup program that it's NetApp's homegrown backup solution. It works very well. The earlier versions were horrible, but they've got it pretty well baked now. At least the core features. So SnapCenter is a Windows 2019 box, and this manages the backup and recovery for SQL servers and for Exchange servers. And the data broker is specifically for VMware. So the data broker actually installs a plugin in VMware right here, and shows you get your backups and stuff. I had an outage where I crashed everything, and the other night, and so my snap mirrors and stuff all died. I expect that, but the only thing with this that I wish was better was I wish they could take this dashboard reporting these jobs and put this stuff into the main SnapCenter dashboard, because the main SnapCenter dashboard is the place that I would prefer to go to see this stuff. Right, so it doesn't give me any VMware level details. All this will give me is like Exchange and SQL backup stuff. So yeah, hint NetApp. TSA Tools. This is an old development server of mine. It's the 2008 R2 box that I have Visual Studio on and SQL, and uh, I used to, I still do, but I kind of build them on my desktop. But I used to build tools with this, and I had like a web based application that I would like stuff the tools in, so I could just get everything from a spot. And I don't use it anymore, but I keep it around because there's a lot of stuff that I've figured out that those solutions are inside of that thing. So if I ever need to go reference some of that stuff, I have it available. Um, Untangle, for anyone who doesn't know what this is, Untangle is a free to use firewall solution with lots of features. Um, I You'll hear a lot of people talk about pfSense as their preferred firewall. I prefer Untangle. Um, this thing is pretty awesome. You have apps, so like I have a VPN tunnel between here and my physical data center space, and then like tunnel VPN. This is for like I have some VPNs configured for this that I can turn them on like if I want to torrent or anything. Um, Spam blocker, virus blocker. These light versions do a really good job of uh, basic functionality. I know for whatever reason this is not reporting, but uh, the spam blocker light blocks spam, and it works really well. It doesn't give you the in-depth reporting that the paid for version does, but we're talking about our home data center here, and even if the paid versions are not expensive, like this program on the whole is super affordable and and a great tool. So like the OpenVPN stuff is super easy to configure. Like I've got one where you just you take this, and for the client, like you download um, you download the client software, and it automatically configures everything. So when you run it off your laptop or whatever, uh, boom, you're connected. It's great. It's super easy to use. It's much easier to configure than IPsec VPN tunnels. But then I've also got this guy right here, which I've got a couple of Nord tunnels to to grab things that I don't want my ISP to be tracking, I guess. Um, so yeah, that's Untangle. Very cool product. I wholeheartedly support the use of these. The only thing I will say is that I'm going to pick this out of my virtual infrastructure and make it a hardware appliance. There are there is a product called Protect CLI. These guys right here, passively cooled little mini computers, right? Uh, I'm going to use one of these for this and get it out of here because uh, when I have issues like I just recently had that outage, right? I blew everything up. It took about 40 minutes to get back up, and I've got two internet connections. I got a Spectrum home connection, which is like 20 down, 5 up, and then I've got a Spectrum business home connection, which is 400 down and 20 up. And I route some of our smart devices through this because we've got all that pipe on the business side, right? So um, my family expects 100% uptime on their TVs and smart devices and stuff. So like breaking this out into a physical appliance that can just reboot on its own without having to without waiting for the QNAP to come up, and then waiting for the VMware host to come up, and then waiting for the NetApp Select appliance to come up to present that storage to be able to boot this, will save me many headaches. Let's look at so vCenter. This is your vCenter appliance. Not much to say about that really. VROM. So this is VMware's tool like ActiveIQ, right? It gives you trending, gives you performance data, gives you some really good information, and I want to show you this. I want to show you this here because this this one spot in here is worth talking about. Reclaimability, right? So, or I'm sorry, right sizing. So, if we look at these this table, recommended CPU reduction, recommended memory reduction, vCenter 2 CPUs, 3 gigs of RAM, right? VSE 5 gigs of RAM. In your environment, whatever hardware you use, one of the really common errors is giving too many machines too many CPUs when they don't need them. You really want to only give machines just enough CPU for it, because what happens here is every time this VM does something, VMware has to put a hold on those CPUs. So if this VM needs to process something for a fraction of a second that just needs like a fraction of one processor, it doesn't matter. It's going to hold 4 processors for the entire time of that transaction, because that's how many are allocated to it. So having less CPUs is better overall, unless the VM needs the horsepower. If it doesn't need it, don't use it, because then you end up in CPU ready situations where you have CPU cycles, but you can't use them because they're being held hostage by all these virtual CPUs, right? Okay, next, VSC. So we looked at this briefly at the beginning there. NetApp's Virtual Storage Console plugin. This plugin allows you to provision storage. That'd be a C, right? We can provision a data store. We can, it's context based, so mount data stores, recommended values. This is a big one. Install the NFS plugin for VMware VAI. It's got there's a lot of cool stuff baked into it, and Site Recovery Manager, the VMware Site Recovery Manager replication adapter of NetApps is included in this. Vasa is included in this. So when you look at this, this is just kind of, I don't even know how accurate this is, because I feel like, well, 1.73, I guess that's, I'm getting 42% space savings off of this based on what this says, which is different than what my dashboard says in the select appliance. I'd be more inclined to believe this. But all these features, of all these features, the NFS, the VAI plugin, is a really cool one. So it's going to scan for these, and there isn't going to be any hosts to show you because they already have it installed. But what this does is offloads your commands from the hosts, from your hypervisors, to the storage. So if you want to clone a VM, normally you'd right click and click clone, right? You'd go through the you'd go through the steps here, right? Clone the virtual machine or whatever, and a file-based copy of that VM would be created, and you would wait however long you had to wait for that. With VAI, it offloads that copy operation to the storage system, and because the storage system is using deduplication, what happens is the storage takes the pointers to those blocks and just duplicates them. So it just duplicates the metadata pointers to those blocks, because you're sharing those blocks with other systems that have those blocks in common. So very cool feature. And then XCH1 and 2. This is an Exchange DAG. Server 2019, Exchange 2019. Pretty standard stuff there. What I would say on this, because you're probably looking at this, there's a lot of stuff here. I would recommend to anybody getting into building something like this to get yourself both a vMug subscription, that's the VM User Group subscription, which gives you a majority of their products a licensed copy of a majority of their products. Um, for it's a limited license, like it's for like 4 CPUs or 8 CPUs, or I mean, it's not going to give you a ton of stuff to build out, but it's going to give you plenty to work with, to learn the products and to learn like NSX and VMware and VROM, all this stuff, right? And then the same thing with on the Microsoft side, it's pricey, but it's worth it. An MSDN subscription will give you so much bang for your buck in software if you don't have uh, access to these things from anywhere else. And in a lot of places, a lot of work environments, uh, if you ask your employer for one, they'll give you one, because depending on where you work and how big the company is, they have enterprise agreements with Microsoft, and they get so many of these things as part of their, so many MSDN subscriptions as part of their agreement anyway, and they may or may not be using them all, but it's something worth checking with your employer on. Um, yeah, so that's pretty much the the whole bit on this, and I'm I'm gonna rebuild this for the new domain, and we'll go through the steps with Active Directory and with the certificate services and all these little pieces. We'll put it all together, but this is at a high level. This is kind of the end result we'll be looking at. But we'll also be tacking on DR functionality with this, and I'm not sure whether we're going to do that in the form of like HCX or maybe SRM. We'll probably use SRM since it comes with, like, you get that with vmug. If you do the VM user group thing, you get that. Um, so it's good stuff. But yeah, so thanks for watching this. If you have any questions, you feel free to post your comments. And I will see you for the next video, which should be a tour of the hardware we're going to use for the home data center and the DR data center. Thanks for watching.